what's important as a recruiter is to recognise the underrepresentation of women in the industry and not just focus on how to create a brand that will attract more women, but how to grow that 17%, because it's just going to stay the same if we don't do anything about it. So I get that some of the things that we're going to talk about today are a very, very long process, but if nobody does anything, nothing's ever going to change. Now, one of the most important things in the industry is having role models, which I think we've touched on a little bit today. Because if you don't have role models in the industry, then there's nobody for these young girls to look up to. So if you Google famous programmers, now I know two off the top of my head, women, Ada Lovelace, who was considered the first software programmer. She actually created the world's first machine algorithm for a very early computing machine. There's also Grace Hopper, who was a pioneer in programming. So these two do pop up. But as you can see, they're actually drowning amongst a lot of pictures of men who have revolutionised the industry. Don't get me wrong, they've helped technology get where it is today, but there's two women amongst all of those pictures. So does that mean there's not any female role models in the industry? No, it doesn't actually. This is just a couple of them. We've got Ada and we've got Grace that I spoke about earlier. One that I wanted to pick out was Jade Raymond, because she actually led the creation of the first Assassin's Creed game. And if you're into gaming, pretty awesome game. You couldn't spin on it, but it was a really, really good game. And a woman led that. There's also this young lady down here who actually completed a computing A-level at the age of 11. There's so many women in the industry who have helped revolutionise and get technology where it is today. Even now, the head of technology at Sky is a woman. The group tech officer at Accenture is a woman. So why do girls why do they not know about role models in the industry? A lot of research shows that a lot of women can't actually pick out a woman in the industry that is a role model. Even before this research, had only heard of Ada Lovelace. I don't know about you lot. So it's important to have role models for them to look up to. Now, research does show, now I've got a lot of PwC mentions in here. They've done a lot of research. If you want to check it out, it's called the Tech She Can Initiative. They've got a lot of research and stats on there, which I've actually used for a lot of this information. So when they surveyed women, 67% of them said they looked for positive role models in the company that they could relate to. And the ISACA statistic kind of backs that up, because 42% of the women they surveyed said that a barrier for them getting into technology is the lack of role models. Because if you don't have anyone to look up to, then perhaps it's a confidence thing. They don't feel like they'll be able to do it, because where are the women that have been able to nail the tech industry? Something that I have kind of noticed a lot is that companies either don't talk about their diversity and inclusion strategy, or they don't action it. So it's not Fight Club. Like, people need to know what you're doing, otherwise they won't have any idea. So why have a strategy in place but don't talk about it? Or why say you're an equal opportunities employer but don't really action it? There's almost no point. And there's a lot of careers pages out there as well who will have a diversity and inclusion page, but will pretty much just put the Oxford English Dictionary definition of what diversity means and what inclusion means, not really showing candidates why it's important to you. So I took two examples here. There's Bloomberg and there's Nestle, and they've really personalised their vision of why it's important to them, why they want a more diverse atmosphere, and what they're doing about it. And again, research does show that 56% of the women that PwC surveyed, they actually look at whether a company publicly shows their progress on diversity. It doesn't necessarily just have to be progress, it could just be the strategy that you have in place. So it's important, as everyone has said today, to talk about it. Now, keeping it consistent. I get that some people are kind of starting from scratch when it comes to bringing more women into their tech teams. So when it comes to imagery on your careers page, you probably don't really have that many women to put in there. But candidates will look at your careers page, they will look at your LinkedIn, they'll look at Glassdoor, they'll look at all of these things before they start applying for your jobs. And even if you have run your job spec through a gender decoder, so you've got the neutral words in there, you've got the feminine words in there, you say you're an equals opportunities employer, and then they go on the careers page and this is what they're confronted with. Or perhaps the careers page is quite diverse imagery, then they click onto your IT and tech jobs and this is what they're faced with. You need to realise that there's a whole process and experience that this candidate is going through. And if your imagery on your careers page is not diverse, then they're going to cut off at that point. 17% of the tech workforce are women. You can't just keep trying to tap into that 17%. You need to open your mind up to different types of talent, which I think somebody has touched on before. There's some ironic kind of jokey ones here because PHP 7 I don't think has even been around for 5 years, but I've seen job specs asking for several years experience in the technology that came out a couple of years ago. As well, graduates with 3, 4+ years commercial experience, it's not going to happen. Like, you're already looking for quite a niche skill set if you're recruiting for developers or automation testers, and there's not many women in the market. But what you need to think about is, are you looking for low-level talent? Do you have the opportunity to bring them in at entry level? Open up internships, open up apprenticeships. Don't just look for graduates, because chances are the ratio is going to be a lot better if you're looking at a lower level. If you're looking at a senior level and you're looking for people with experience in the latest technology, then you're not considering return to work people who won't have had experience in the latest technology. Now, there are other factors that you need to consider. Having a diverse interview panel was one that I heard a few months ago, and I didn't even think about that. I mean, imagine you've got a candidate through the door and you've nailed it pretty much. You've got a pretty diverse talent pool, and then the whole recruitment process, they're being interviewed by just men. These factors need to be taken into consideration. We've obviously spoken about training, reviewing job specs. Getting buy-in from hiring managers isn't the easiest one. Retaining female talent, analysing your recruitment data, because otherwise how are you going to know if anything's working? There are a lot of factors to consider. You can also get critique from your current employees. If you're unsure as to whether what you're doing at the moment is going to be attracting more female talent, or you're unsure, okay, we can't offer flexible working, so we're screwed, so we haven't got any employee benefits that women are going to like. You talk to the people that are working for you at the moment, ask them why they are working for you. And also think about the kind of candidates that you're trying to attract. Not every woman wants a flexible work-life balance, because they'll be at different stages of their life. There are women that don't care about having kids right now. They care about career progression, learning, or they care about a company that's going to embrace the fact that they might not have all the skills they're after, but they can see something in them and give them an opportunity. It's not just one case, everyone's different. And also look at companies that are winning awards. There's quite a lot of awards. There was the Times, Sunday Times Awards for companies that are being diverse employers of choice. Look at what they're doing. Learn from them.